Imagine a Caribbean jewel, so breathtaking, so incredibly rich in resources, that it didn't just inspire poetry, it literally ignited centuries of relentless global warfare. We're talking about a place where towering volcanic peaks meet the crystal-clear sea, a place where a fiercely turbulent past gave birth to one of the most vibrant cultures on the planet. Welcome to our explainer on the stunning island of Saint Lucia.
So you have to ask yourself, why did two global empires fight 14 separate times for one single island? Seriously, what made this tiny, 617 square kilometer piece of land intoxicating enough to demand centuries of conflict? Why shed so much blood over a space that's smaller than a lot of modern cities? Well, the answer lies in a totally mesmerizing mix of geography, geology, and of course, geopolitical destiny.
Let's start with part 1, the land, fire, earth, and the pittance.
Saint Lucia's geography is, quite simply, a volcanic powerhouse. Guarding the western coast are these two iconic ancient stone sentinels known as the pitons. Now, these were formed tens of thousands of years ago. They're massive volcanic plugs rising abruptly right out of the ocean. They stand as these epic geological monuments to the immense fiery forces that literally birthed this island from the seafloor. And as we move inland, the elevation just surges. We hit 950 meters. That's the height of Mount Jimmy, the highest peak on the island. It's a rugged, ancient stratovolcano that pierces right through the clouds. Up there, the whole environment transforms into this dense, mist-covered rainforest. It's so deeply forested, in fact, that historically, the population has mostly hugged the coastlines, leaving this dramatic interior mysterious and largely untouched. But beneath the surface, that restless energy is still boiling. Down at Sulphur Springs, which is actually often called the world's only drive-in volcano, you'll find a massive 10-kilometer-wide depression. It creates this constant, hissing symphony of bubbling mud and steam. It's a totally raw, primeval landscape. You can completely see why early indigenous settlers and later European explorers viewed it with absolute awe.
Which brings us to part 2, the struggle, a crucible of empires.
Long before Europeans ever arrived, the Arawaks settled here around 200 AD. They were followed centuries later by the fierce Kalinago people. So when European ships finally anchored, they didn't find an empty paradise. They found a fortified stronghold. By the 1550s, a French pirate known as Wooden Leg was using Pigeon Island to ambush Spanish treasure galleons. Then, tragically, came the era of sugar and enslavement, but also fierce resistance. In the 1790s, an army of Maroons and fugitive soldiers fought a brutal guerrilla campaign known as the Brigand Wars. Ultimately, the British wouldn't fully secure the territory until 1814, kicking off a long road that finally led to peaceful independence in 1979.
You see, the island's incredibly strategic harbors and lucrative sugar potential made it the ultimate geopolitical prize. Control of this haven shifted an astonishing 14 times between the British and the French. It was a centuries-long tug-of-war, usually accompanied by the devastating roar of naval cannon fire and the burning of castries. And because of this constant shifting of hands, Saint Lucia earned a legendary, almost poetic nickname. Likened to a beauty so profound it launched armadas, she became known to the world as the Helen of the West.
Moving on to part 3, the economy, from fields to global tourism.
For decades, the sheer lifeblood of Saint Lucia's economy was agriculture, specifically sprawling banana plantations. But as global markets shifted, the island had to adapt, and adapt they did. Today, agriculture actually makes up just over 2% of the GDP. Instead, Saint Lucia engineered a massive shift into a powerhouse service sector, which now commands nearly 87% of the entire economy. And the driving force behind this massive transformation? Global travel and tourism. To put that into perspective, over 1.2 million visitors now arrive annually. They're seeking the exact same tropical climate, stunning topography, and safe harbors that once drew those privateers and galleons. Today, the marinas are just filled with yachts, and grand cruise ships rest peacefully right there in the Castries Harbor. The island has brilliantly leveraged its natural beauty to become one of the absolute premier destinations on Earth.
And finally, we arrive at part 4, the people and the light.
You know, the ancient soul of the island actually survives in its very name. Way before a single European ship appeared on the horizon, the early Arawaks called it Luanalau, meaning the island of the iguanas. Later, when the Caribs arrived, they adapted it to Huanora. And even today, the nation's international airport proudly bears the name Huanora. It's a daily, living reminder of the island's deep indigenous roots. Then there's the linguistic heartbeat of the island, Creole, or Saint Lucian French Creole. Born out of the traumatic era of colonization, it's this brilliant fusion of French vocabulary mixed with West African syntax and rhythm. It is the language of the home, the language of the streets, and of vibrant street festivals like La Rose and La Marguerite. It's a powerful testament to a people who forged a truly rich, unified cultural identity against all odds. But here's something that will absolutely blow your mind. How did a tiny island in the Eastern Caribbean manage to produce such a staggering list of achievements? Saint Lucia actually boasts the highest per capita ratio of Nobel laureates in the entire world. Sir Arthur Lewis won the Nobel Prize in Economics in 1979, the exact same year they gained independence. Then in 1992, the legendary poet Derek Walcott captured the Nobel Prize in Literature. And this brilliance extends right onto the athletic stage too. At the 2024 Paris Olympics, Julian Alfred blazed down the track to win the women's 100-meter sprint, capturing the nation's first ever Olympic gold.
Honestly, it all comes back to their national motto. The land provides that breathtaking volcanic foundation. The people provide the unyielding resilience, and the light is the sheer brilliance they project onto the global stage. When you look at the remarkable trajectory of this tiny island, it really leaves us to wonder, what other sparks of genius are just waiting to emerge from the Helen of the West?